Gracie Jiu-Jitsu rocks. Welcome to the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast, a podcast dedicated to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu and all things Gracie, including self-defense, competition, anti-bullying, women's self-defense and empowerment, nutrition, and most especially, the people involved in Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. This podcast is for the average Joe. It's for anyone who practices, trains, teaches, or just loves to talk about or hear about Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. We'll explore the lives of Gracie Jiu-Jitsu practitioners, how they got involved in the art, and what effect it's had on their lives. So buckle up and enjoy the ride. Welcome to episode 10 of the Gracie Jiu-Jitsu Rocks podcast. I'm your host, Marty Josie, and thanks for listening. Today we're going to start off with a short discussion. I'll be joined by Jeff Howard, and you may remember Jeff from episode 6 where I interviewed him. And after the short discussion, I'll be interviewing today's guest, which will be Idriz Redzovic of Team Redzovic Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a Gracie Jiu-Jitsu school in Chicago, Illinois, and he is a Gracie black belt. So let's get started with the discussion with Jeff. Jeff, today's topic, gi or no gi? What do you think?
I love this topic. It's a topic near and dear to me. I run into folks all the time talking about jiu-jitsu. We'll talk about the benefits of training gi versus no gi, and there's a long spectrum of opinions on this, and it's interesting to hear everyone's opinion. I mean, I personally feel like training both is the best thing, especially if your focus is self-defense. It seems to make sense to do both, but there are a lot of folks who feel like, well, if you're really training self-defense, then you should only do no gi because nobody's out there in a gi. You're never going to fight anyone in a gi. But then, there's the opposite side of, well, people always wear clothes, so, you should train wearing clothes, right? So, there's certainly there's room for different opinions, but I'd like to talk about why both.
Absolutely. Let me share a quick thought. When I first started out with the jiu-jitsu, I had no interest whatsoever with the gi. It was, I just felt a lot more at home, a lot more comfortable with no gi. Plus, I had no knowledge of defending any collar choke, so that certainly fed into this. So I liked kind of the looseness, the speed of no gi, and I felt my mindset was that of, like you mentioned, that nobody's wearing gis on the street, and this is a lot more street applicable. But as I got more into the different facets of jiu-jitsu, I started appreciating the gi more, and how even in a self-defense situation, as you just mentioned, they might not be wearing a gi, but they might be wearing, a jacket or whatever that you can use. So certainly, kind of come full circle, but love both.
Sure. I think both make sense, and certainly I don't want to disparage either opinion. There's some folks who are diehard no gi only sort of folks, and vice versa, and I think both have their merits. But I'd like to talk about why training both makes sense if you have the time. From a gi perspective, it's really hard to beat the control that you can learn from doing jiu-jitsu or grappling with a gi. I mean, think about when you're watching a no-gi match or you're participating in a no-gi sparring situation. Everything is going really fast. You look kind of like two cats going at each other, just spinning in circles, kind of Tasmanian devil-looking stuff.
Right on.
But gi you'll notice that people get much more control. And that's, from a self-defense perspective, that makes sense. People are wearing clothes out in the street. You can use those clothes against folks. And if you really train from a no-gi perspective of, grabbing clothes isn't allowed, well, then whenever you have a real fight, you're not going to grab clothes, because how you train is how you fight.
Absolutely.
So you're not going to benefit from the control that that gi training will give you. Also, because of as you mentioned, gi chokes, you have more submission or fight ending options too. Holding on to the gi to get an arm bar, or holding on to the pants and being able to get some sort of ankle lock or toe hold, or once again a choke. Being able to use those clothes against the opponent from a self-defense perspective makes a lot of sense. But one thing I was talking with a jiu-jitsu colleague recently about, it just came to mind, and I thought, with gi training, you'll notice, of course, as I said before, the speed decreases.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there are several reasons for that we could talk about, but for the purpose of this discussion, let's just say the speed decreases. It does. And one thing that I thought about is that because the speed that you're going at decreases, I think, at least from a personal perspective, my learning increases because I can see things coming at a slower pace, and so I can adapt to that and respond to those things, and then that helps me to build those pathways.
Absolutely.
So that whenever I encounter the situation in a quicker sort of scenario, then I've seen it in a slow scenario, so I already know what my solution is to that.
And if you hadn't done that, you may or may not deal with that situation, but it won't register what you did or the opportunities, and so the learning may not be as evident as quickly. Interesting when you were talking about grabbing the clothes to control in a self-defense situation. Royce Gracie was saying one reason he liked wearing the gi in the early UFCs, even though a lot of people, others elected not to, was because it increased the chance that they would grab him, and if they were grabbing him, they weren't punching him. So that's also a factor. If you're wearing clothes in a self-defense situation, obviously someone might be grabbing you, which might actually help and be it to your advantage. I would much rather be dealing with someone grabbing my clothes than in a self-defense situation than being punched in the face. Contrast that with one of my issues with training gi for a good while was I didn't like people grabbing my clothes. And being controlled like that. I like to just feel like I could flow, and kind of go where I want. But there you go. I'm learning with the gi, and I definitely see the benefit of both. I've heard very top jiu-jitsu people talk about even if your main thing is no gi, how the gi still really helps you. And
I think it can't help but make sense. It just makes sense that training both is going to be beneficial. I think your no gi will make your gi better, and your gi will make your no gi better.
Absolutely.
Did I just say the same thing twice?
Something like that.
I probably did. You know what I meant. But, thinking about it from a no gi perspective too, as we talked about, the speed increases, and in some ways that's detrimental, but in some ways it's beneficial because that speed may more closely resemble what a real street fight will be. Lots of flurries and lots of scrambles.
Yes.
And so that there is that benefit to it. So it is more closely resembling a street fight. So having that pressure and already being familiar with that sort of pressure and that sort of speed is going to help you from a self-defense perspective. Also, I think one of the interesting no-gi or pro-no-gi points is that lots of the times the clothing that you're going to encounter in a fight isn't going to be strong enough to deal with the control or the submissions that you're going to try to do with a gi. It's going to be hard, not impossible, but hard to do a collar choke with a t-shirt. It may rip. Same thing from a control perspective. You're trying to grab sleeves, and they may just rip the shirt. I mean, look at recently the tough Brazil with Chael Sonnen and Vanderlei Silva. Of course, Chael did have two people on him, but that's another story. But he lost his shirt. The shirt just ripped right off. So that there's a good example of that. And that brings up another thing. What if the person you're fighting doesn't have a shirt?
Right.
And that can happen.
Absolutely.
You might have a Hickson on the beach sort of fight.
Scenario, that's right.
And so then if you've never trained no gi, then how are you gonna deal with it?
In that case, you need to train for getting sand in your eyes and make sure you're good.
Yeah, everything.
No, so basically, if you train just no gi, when you start getting grabbed with your clothing, you're going to be kind of at a loss because that's going to be something new to you. If you just train gi and avoid no gi, you'll be used to a slower pace, being able to control or deal with being controlled, but you'll miss out on the opportunity and possibly in the real scenario when it speeds up and you don't have the hooks or the grips rather to be able to control them as you would like with the clothes. So, anything else?
No, that's great. This is a good discussion.
All right. Welcome your comments, feedback. Weigh in if you'd like. Go to www.graciejujitsurocks.com or hit us up with a phone call. Okay, fun discussion. And now let's meet Idriz Redzovic. Okay, my guest today is Idriz Redzovic of Redzovic Gracie Jiu-Jitsu in Chicago, Illinois. So welcome, Idriz.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. And got to say, a couple days ago, I had the chance to do a private with Idriz, and it was really, really good. Just wanted to say that you're very patient, very knowledgeable, and a great insight. So if anybody that's living in the Chicago area, or if you're just visiting Chicago, I definitely recommend looking up Idriz for a private or doing one of the group classes at one of the 3 locations of Redzovic Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. All right, my friend, let's start by just having you give us a little bit of your background, your history, how you got involved, with Gracie Jiu-Jitsu, and kind of your journey, what led you to where you are today.
Okay, great. I was born in Bosnia, and then I came here when I was a year old. I was raised in Chicago my whole life. So basically, I was born in Bosnia, but raised in Chicago my whole life. And I come from a family, just me and my mom. My dad passed away when I was younger, and it's my sister too. So a little bit of my family. But besides that, I was always active growing up. I always played sports, played football for like 7 years, tackle. I was always active. And my cousin, the way I got involved was basically my family. My cousin, the first time I was introduced to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu was at my uncle's house. My cousin put a rear naked choke on me and just put me to sleep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's quite an introduction, huh?
I didn't know what it was. I guess he learned the rear naked choke, and then he kept on doing it. I wish I could. My uncle has some video footage of it. I was trying to look for it. And it was it sucked because imagine he did it in front of my uncle. I'm over here like yelling for my uncle. I couldn't yell because you're choking, but my uncle was laughing. He found it funny for some reason. But that was the first time I experienced Gracie Jiu-Jitsu. So when I first started doing it, my cousin Eddie was the first one introduced it to in our family, and he's the one who got his brother, my cousin Adam, involved, and Adam got me and kind of basically pulled me by the ear, which he pulled his brother by the ear, and he dragged me for like 2 years. So I was still in high school when I first started. When I was like 16, I think, when I first started doing it. I got choked out when I was probably 15, and ever since then I was doing it from high school. And the first 2 years were kind of rough. I kind of like tried to make excuses. For actually probably 3 years, I was trying to make excuses not to go to train. It was the whole choking, sweating. It was really hard to learn. There was no YouTube, or I couldn't go and look up some moves. It was really hard. Whatever you knew, I was learning from my cousin, who just got his purple belt. The 4-stripe blue belt.
Yeah, and you were telling me you weren't really into it for the first 2 or 3 years, but you kept going, right?
Yeah, kept on going. Yeah, because I didn't want to give up. But the thing was, I was also being a teenager in Chicago. You got friends pulling you 5 different directions, and
right.
that's you got let's go to the club, and then next thing you know, like I'm up to 5, 6 in the morning, and then I'm going to go train at 10 in the morning. It was
Oh
really
man,
rough.
that's brutal.
And it was kind of, it was my fault, but I had a good thing. I had my family there to support me and kept me in check and kept me going. Helped me out.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Now your cousins they're the ones that started the school in the area, or the schools in the area?
Yeah. It was my cousin Eddie. He started like in the 90s. He was
Okay.
he was under Hoist Gracie at first, and then I ended up going to Brazil, traveling. He met Marcio Festosa and Master Carlos Gracie Jr. And Carlos Gracie Jr. gave my cousin the opportunity of being the first American to represent Gracie Baja here in the United States back like 2003, I believe, something like that, 2002.
Nice.
And I started like I started like in 2001, I believe, 2002, something like that. And then from there, he represented. We started with him. My cousin got his black belt from Carlos Gracie Jr. One of the first. He was also one of the first Americans to get a black belt from Master Carlos Gracie Jr., which his father, Master Carlos Gracie Sr., is the one who Grandmaster who invented the art.
Yeah, that's very nice. Very nice. Okay, so let's jump to. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, so it's a family. We have a family of 3 black belts. Pretty cool.
Absolutely. So let's jump to along your black belt journey. What's been the most interesting or exciting thing for you about studying and practicing and teaching? Or what were some of the biggest highlights on that road to your black belt?
It's a tough question. I think one of the most exciting things was the opportunity when my cousins trusted me to teach my first class, by myself, and that was a kids class. And I started teaching kids classes when I was with my cousin, and he gave me a chance to teach it by myself, and that was an honor. That was a highlight to be able to see a kid going from being a really bad kid to improving, to his parents, saying thank you. You changed this kid around.
That's great.
It was, some kids, some kids losing weight, lost some weight. Those small things, or seeing a kid. I remember this Craig, he's still training right now. Him and his dad, Greg Jr. and Greg Sr. It's kind of bad that I think like this, but it was at a tournament, at a knockout tournament, and the kid's rolling around, and he's submitting every kid by like a rear naked choke, like a spider. That kind of was a highlight.
Oh, yeah. Well, it does.
Students,
it's got
seeing your students like excel at the tournaments, but that's not the main objective. I think the main objective to Gracie Jiu-Jitsu is learning how to defend yourself. First and foremost.
Absolutely.
That was a highlight for me. Seeing not just that, seeing people like come to me and saying, "Hey, look, I stopped. I got a girlfriend now, married," because he has confidence to go up to somebody, approach them, or someone got a raise because now they changed their confidence, their boss saw a change in them. So many stories of people just improving their lives. That to me, like hearing those stories now in the office, because being in the office for 10 plus years on the mats, my office is the mats.
Oh, absolutely. And so it sounds like studying and teaching Gracie Jiu-Jitsu has really enabled you to make a big impact on a lot of people's lives.
Yeah, and also it made an impact for me, because it kept me now in check, that I had to be a better example. I can't be that goofball I was back in high school. I had to improve myself as a person.
Absolutely. So it gave you some direction and focus.
Exactly.
Sounds like. Okay. Very good. Very good. Do you have a favorite technique or position?
I love side control. I love working. I like passing the guard. I like being on side control, and I used to love doing arm bars and stuff like that. But now that I've been training more and more, I'm starting to, last few years I've been realizing chokes are probably my favorite now. Because arm bars are great, but a lot of times you catch people in arm bars and you can't go too extreme because they don't want to tap, or sometimes their ego is battling. But when you get someone in a choke, they have no choice or they're gonna go out. So that's I think I don't know if you could correct me. I think Helio said something about the choke. I can't have a blurry memory right now, but a choke I think is the one is my favorite choke. Is my favorite submission. Doing a choke from the mount. I couldn't understand it when I was a white belt. I couldn't mount somebody and choke them. And then I think when I was becoming like I told when I was a brown belt, I was like, man, it'd be kind of embarrassing that if I can't stay mounted and choke someone from the mount. So all I did was mount people because I was really good at passing the guard against side control. So now it's like mount and do a choke from the mount. Something real basic you learn at first, but couldn't understand until I got to my later years in my journey.
Okay, so you knew it way back, but it took you a while to really perfect it.
To actually affect it and actually pull it off on another black belt or another brown belt.
But now it's part of your arsenal.
Yeah.
You can do it pretty much when you want. Yeah. Okay. Idriz, tell us about your time off the mat. Do you have a favorite activity or hobby besides jiu-jitsu?
I'm kind of all over the place with that. I used to love playing basketball until I got some bad knees, but my knees are getting better now. What do I like? I love spending time with my family. I love like hanging out with my family. I like I'm real simple. I go to my uncle's house and play some cards. The simple things in life, the small, the real small things. Hanging out on a Saturday night with my daughter. To me, that's.
And your daughter's a new addition to your family, isn't she?
She's about to be 2. I just had a boy like a month ago.
Oh, okay.
Just a simple thing of like this last couple of years, just to be there on a Saturday, taking her to get some ice cream or something simple. The simple things in life.
Yeah, until I became a parent, I never knew. I would hear people talk about it being just the most incredible thing ever and what a different kind of love it is. And I was like, yeah, I'm sure that's true. But once I actually experienced it, it was just like, wow, it changed my whole world.
Yeah, I don't go out to a nightclub. I don't drink alcohol. I don't do none of that. That's a simple thing. I used to a long time ago, and that gets played out. It's the same thing over and over. It's I don't believe it should. It's real hard on the body. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. I kind of arrived at the same conclusion. When I was younger, I was pretty into the party scene and that kind of thing, but don't do any of that anymore and just try to live a lot cleaner life now.
And you're less stress free.
That's for sure.
Like that lifestyle. That's why I got into a lot of fights, a lot of trouble.
Right.
I think one form of self-defense, if you can learn, you can cut down any chance of you getting in a fight, is staying away from alcohol. Staying away from wherever, like that nightclub scene, the bars. That's where all the trouble, majority of the trouble starts.
Yeah, I believe you're right. Just staying away from that kind of environment, and then the alcohol can definitely throw fuel to the fire in a lot of situations, for sure. So, do you follow the Gracie diet, Idriz, or any other specific nutritional program?
I'm with the Gracie diet. I'm a white belt. I'll be honest with you guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. I was talking to my cousin Eddie. I know he's trying to do it. He's doing it. The diet that I followed that really helped me when I was strict is the paleo, like the caveman diet. If a caveman eat it, that one helped me a lot. But I have trouble sometimes with the bread.
The bread can be hard to give up.
I'll go through spurts. Like I'll go like 2 months without it, and then a barbecue comes up and it's off. But the paleo diet, I think that's the one that worked for me the most. I never really tried. I don't know why I never tried the Gracie diet. I have it on my bucket list to do. It's something I want to accomplish, to try, at least give it a try.
Sure. And I've talked to a lot of people that feel like the paleo diet actually was good for them as well, and had a good effect. In fact, I've got a buddy who's in Durham, North Carolina, that's just about to open a new restaurant called Primal Food and Spirits, and it's based on the old primal and paleo movement. And I think it's the first gluten-free restaurant in the whole area. So shout out to Tim Lyons.
Yeah. Like the paleo diet. Like, I don't know if you ever ate Mediterranean food, like kebabs and shawarma. Like,
Yeah, absolutely. I love
kebabs
that
and all that. I love that. That's I could eat that every day.
Yeah.
I know
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Like,
So tell me, if you could train with anyone living or deceased, who would that be?
Deceased, it has to be Helio. Just to see, how I heard he had some really big forearms. I never met him. But for deceased, it would be Helio. For someone that's alive, that's a tough one. I trained with a lot of them, a lot of guys already, but for alive, I wouldn't mind Hickson Gracie, Master Hickson.
Sure.
Who else? Henzo Gracie, Hoyce. I learned from Hoyce, but never got to roll with him.
You guys had him up to your school sometime soon.
Yeah. He was here. The first time he did a seminar in Chicago since the 90s was right recently in 2014 right now.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Late 90s, yeah. That's a long time, huh?
It is.
Yeah.
Who are some of the others that you've had a chance to train with?
One recently that the highest belt that I ever trained with was Master Carlos Gracie Jr. I was really lucky to get to train with him a lot. He was right after the Worlds. I believe it was last year, the year before. It ended up becoming just a small class of just me and a few other black belts at Gracie Bar headquarters. That was
cool.
It was an experience. Seeing
Absolutely.
At that age, being able to have a really good guard and something to strive for. And
Absolutely.
I was able to train with some other guys. I trained with a lot of other guys. Another tough guy that I trained with that amazed me was Samuel Braga. He's like I think 6-time world champion, 130 pounds. I trained with a lot of other guys, but he was like a leech. Like you when you turn your head to the left, he was there. You turn your head to the right, he was already there. 5 steps ahead of you, and being that small. And I trained with other guys like Con Gracie when he was a purple, and a few other guys. I think the ones that one guy I really enjoyed training with is my cousin Adam. He's a bigger guy, not big, but like 215 pounds, but he rolls like he no strength. Like if you roll, I might put a little strength into it. He rolls completely gentle, and he kills you with gentle.
Wow.
Yeah, he's like I don't even know how to explain it. It takes the air out of you, sucks the air out of you, like a shock vacuum.
Like a shock vacuum. That's pretty good. Well, you see, it's very fortunate that you have the opportunity to train with him on a regular basis.
Yeah, I'm really lucky, and we have other tough black belts here also, like a really up and coming guy that here I see him, Professor Brick, other guys like Andre, Barry, and Sid, and my cousin Eddie. We have a lot of tough black belts here, and Chris, and we have a lot of guys that are tough black belts here in Chicago that we're still together since 10 plus years. It's like a second. I've seen a lot more of these guys, and I see a lot of my cousins that are family by blood, but these guys are family by sweat, and I see them. I've seen a lot of them more than I've seen blood cousins.
Wow.
Becomes like becomes a second family. Becomes blood almost.
Sounds like you guys have really developed a tight knit team and a great camaraderie.
Yeah.
All right. So when I was there the other day, you asked me a question, and the question was something like, "Do I feel like everybody who starts jiu-jitsu starts at the same place or on the same level. And my answer was no. I feel like depending on where someone's coming from, or their life experience, prior training, even in other arts besides jiu-jitsu, and their physical attributes all come into play. And you told me that was that most people's answer is very different than that.
Yeah.
And then you went on to explain your thoughts on that. Could you share your thoughts on that?
Yeah, most of the time when I ask somebody, even like I ask a whole class, like, do you guys all believe? I yell it out. Do you guys all believe when you guys walk in that door, your first day, do you guys all start on the same page, on the same level, clean sheet? And everyone's like, yeah, we all start on the same level. And I don't believe it. I believe it's a no, because every person that comes in here comes with a baggage. Comes with, you like it or not, some people will come in 20 pounds overweight. Some people will come in with, they played sports all their life. They're athletic. Some people wrestle. So many people have different backgrounds. And that could affect you if you everyone's going to progress at a different level, just like they progress when you're in high school or in other sports. So that should be kind of like when you're training, don't think now like, oh, this guy got a stripe, but we start at the same level, or I could tap this guy out, or everyone. Us as instructors, it's very tough, but we grade everyone at a different. We look at people differently depending on their age, their weight. What we think we can get out of them. By just seeing them roll or their attitude change. Some people, it could be just their attitude on the mats and so many other things. And for example, I think I gave an example where one guy comes in, he's 30 pounds overweight, and his goal is to now lose the weight so he can start to, like when he starts learning those moves at first, they're working for him. They're not working for him 100%, but when he gets to the ideal weight, they start to click a little bit better. Another guy's journey could be that he's learning everything now, but he's more impatient, and he might start to excel fast. But then what happens is sometimes a guy or a third guy, he might have started, maybe he just wasn't the athletic guy, but just because he stuck through it for 5 years, he starts his attributes of maybe being more patient, or maybe not being athletic, but being just a patient guy, or being more relaxed. Having that, it starts. His attributes start kicking in 5 years in the journey. Some of the guys start kicking right away, but then 5 years he's a roadblock because he's his attribute of impatience. Sometimes just being impatient for some stuff might not work. Does that make sense? Like,
absolutely,
everyone's attributes click in at different times. Some guys might not, excel. The stock market, they might excel in 3 years. Another guy might start excelling really high in the first 2-3 years, but then his roadblock, just because now his journey to black belt is his impatience, just being more patient, or so many other things that could happen in the journey. I don't know if I made any sense right there.
No, you did, and what I gleaned from that is people start based on where they're starting, and it's not always at the same place based on what they bring. And take for example, if someone comes in with really great physical attributes, they're super strong, or let's say someone's really flexible, so they can use that flexibility to make it hard for a lot of people to pass their guard. But they don't have to take time to really learn, the great defenses when they can rely on that flexibility.
Flexibility, yeah.
Yeah, but at some point you meet someone that's going to has more strength than you, or when that flexibility alone isn't going to cut it. They have a lot more skill than you, and that's when that person realizes they got to work a lot more on the skill as well, not just rely on those physical attributes.
And then that's the whole journey of jiu-jitsu, because for some, we've seen guys that weren't so good in the beginning, but just because they stuck through it, now they're destroying guys. I think I told you a story about one of our students that was a perfect example for jiu-jitsu. His uncle brought him in because he was getting bullied in high school. It was a 100-pound 14-year-old when he started with us, and now that he started training with us, he's been training with us for going on 4 or 5 years right now. He's just got his purple belt, and he's like 130 pounds, maybe 135 in a soaking wet gi. If you drink a lot of water, but PJ, and now he's destroying guys 200 plus pounds.
Wow.
And it's amazing to see. My goal when I rolled with him in the past was just catch him and pin him down. There's no like trying to roll with his speed, because if you try to play his game, you're gonna get destroyed. So that's the beautiful thing in jiu-jitsu, because he might have like walked in the door and he was 100 pounds and he didn't have those attributes, but his attributes started kicking in later, and he used his size. You have to understand, everyone is going to have a different game. And if you're, I believe, a smaller guy, you have to. If you're going with a bigger guy, don't let the big guy put you on your back. You got to keep moving the whole time. I said Samuel Braga. He said the guy the 6-time world champion. He says I don't let big guys. There's no reason for me to play. You know, if I play guard, he's playing spider guard. He doesn't let guys mount him. He's got to keep moving. If he doesn't have something, keep moving. Eventually, the bigger guy's going to do what? Get gassed out, tired.
Right.
So you got to play to your advantage, to your body weight, you know. So that's something with PJ, for example. Someone that started at 100 pounds, 135, he's still training with us, and he's now, just because he stuck through it, maybe in the beginning was rough for him, and he didn't have that stuff, but just because he stuck through it, his attributes started kicking in later.
That's a great story, man. Thanks for sharing that. That's motivating for me to hear it. You know, you got someone that's small and stays with it, stays the course, and then develops that capacity to go against people much larger, just because they've developed that high level of skill. So that's great. All right. Do you have a favorite quote or motto that inspires you or that you live by?
One quote, I think I told you a couple of days ago, was something that I kind of tell my students, was something that I had to kind of work with my own, was when I roll, I try to imagine if Masters Carlos Gracie Sr. and Helio Gracie were standing there alive watching me roll, would they be happy with what they see, or would they be kind of mad because I'm using more strength than technique, you know? So
I like that.
Kind of like try to keep me in check, you know, because if I got to know who I'm rolling with too. You know, you can't roll. You got to, like I think Huron says, keep it playful. You got to know sometimes you go hard, sometimes you can't always go 100%. You got to know also if you're rolling with someone that's 30 pounds over you, you got to kind of level it out. You can't always roll like a maniac, you know. You know,
Absolutely.
If you and this guy, for example, are known to roll hard with each other, and you guys have that respect, then it's nothing wrong with rolling hard. It gives you you know, but you can roll hard. You're gonna beat up your body. So, you know, or if you start to rely on so much strength, yeah, I have that right now since I'm younger, but that's not going to be the case, because eventually I'm gonna get older, and these younger guys are gonna start catching up. So I got to start to develop my technique even when I'm tired. You know, that it just becomes second nature.
That's a great point. I really like that measuring stick, or at least that viewpoint of imagining them over in the corner watching you and keeping you in check. You know, making sure you're not muscling through it, but really developing the technique. So that's cool. That's cool.
You know, there's people. You know, why don't you? Well, that's what I have, but there's some finesse when you see someone do something without strength, and that's something like I'm telling you, like my cousin Adam, Professor Adam. Just stuff where it looks like, man, he didn't use like 1 pound of pressure.
Wow.
He tricks you into. It's like when you see someone trick you into a move, you know, trick you into a submission. Or does that make sense?
Absolutely.
You fall for the trap.
Yeah, he knows how to set it up, and then you never see it coming, right?
I have some of my own up my sleeve, you know.
Oh, I'm sure. Idriz, if you could go back and talk to white belt Idriz, what would you tell him, or what advice would you have for him?
I would tell him, enjoy each belt level, you know, have fun with it. Don't rush, you know, through the belts trying to think I got to get my stripes. Ask if you think, you know, ask your instructor, you know, when do I get my next belt promotion? or what, tell them what do I have to do, what is it that I'm lacking, and whatever advice they give you, enjoy it, enjoy each belt level. That's what I'm, enjoy it, don't stress yourself. How would I say it? If I had to tell myself, another thing, I just had a sit down. I was telling PJ, the purple I was just telling you about. He has a problem. I think he's, not to overtrain. Give your body some rest. You go through some phases where you think I got to train harder than the next guy, and next you know you get injured. Don't beat up your body like a taxi cab.
Yeah.
Don't use right now you're young and you don't feel it, but you're building up those little injuries. Sometimes just taking a step back, taking a day or two off. Don't overtrain. Respect your body. Eat healthier. Sometimes.
Okay.
Enjoy the belt levels.
Okay. So slow down, get rest, and eat right, and think about that you're in it for the long haul, right?
Yes, exactly. It's exactly long one. Because sometimes if you train too much, when you take a day off or 2 days off, it gives you some time for your brain to make the connections, for stuff to settle in. Maybe hanging out with friends, something will click in. Does that make sense? Sometimes I think I came back the best when I had my clavicle. I was training with this MMA fighter, and he took me down, and my clavicle popped out of my chest, and I was out for like 2-3 months. And when I came back, it's almost like I didn't skip a beat. I think I actually went up a few notches. And even though I didn't train, but when I came back, just after I got a little wind back, my confidence, just being able to watch other people roll and seeing their mistakes, looking at it from another viewpoint. Sometimes a couple of times when I came back from injury, I came back better because I actually gave my body, I think, time to rest other parts.
Yeah.
Some people don't give time for their bodies to rest. They think they have to beginners, they sign up and I have unlimited training. I gotta train every day.
Yeah, gotta push. Right?
The only way I could get better, it's not only about training. There's other stuff you have to do. If you're not, sometimes some people, they don't get better because they have lack of sleep.
Absolutely.
You might not be getting better because you're not letting your body, sink in the knowledge you're learning. Maybe you're not getting enough sleep. Maybe since you're training more, you need more sleep.
Makes sense, and that's very important to me as I'm definitely getting older. Gotta warm up more, and I've gotta take more breaks just so I can do it for the rest of my life. So that's very real for me. So in closing up, Idriz, anything else that you'd like to share with us today about your life, about jiu-jitsu, about anything?
One thing I could share is if you train at a good school and your instructor is a legit instructor, believe in him. When you're going through stages, you start to think you're doubting. You start to doubt, like, man, does this stuff work, or am I learning, or because some stuff might not work for you. There's stuff that you'll learn and they might not work for you now, but they'll work. There's stuff that I learned and they work 2 years later. Maybe I wasn't ready to receive that information, but it was in storage somewhere, encrypted in my brain. And and believe in your instructor. And I think when I first started to realize, like, I thought since I'm learning from my cousins and this and that, maybe I'm not learning the right jiu-jitsu. But when I started seeing people, when we said visitors, or when I started having visitors come and train with them, I used to kick these guys' butt. Or if I went to travel and I started, they're teaching me the same stuff I'm learning when I traveled to another school. So believe in your instructors, and there's no, at the end of the day, don't point the finger at anybody. If you're not doing good, it's because you're doing something wrong, not your instructor. You have especially in the day of age where we live in right now with YouTube and everything's at the click of your fingertips. And if you're not getting better at something, pick up, drill some more. It's not all about just, I got to roll. Drilling, basketball players go do what they do jump shots, 1,000 shots a day,
Absolutely.
So, if you're not doing good, it's because of you. You're not training hard enough. A lot of people are quick to point the finger at other people, but it's them. Maybe you're hanging out with the wrong friends, and maybe that's not making you better. Be humble, don't stress out. Have fun with it. And one thing I used to think that in my brain was like, when you became a black belt, I had to know everything, and I had to learn all these moves. I had to make sure, if someone asked me, "Do you know this move?" I got to know everything. But I realized when I did get my black belt, my journey just began. And you're like, "What do you mean by that?" Well, I do know a lot of moves, but I don't know everything. There's some moves that I am a black belt level at, but there's certain moves while I'm training, like, because I got my black belt now, there's certain moves, like, for example, there's a sweep I know, but my level of pulling that sweep off I'm still at a blue belt level. My timing is not there. I understand the move, but for me to pull off that sweep at another black belt probably might not work. Now my job as a black belt is to master everything I have learned, and not everything's going to work for you, Don't force everything. Does that make sense?
Well, it does, and that's the beauty of jiu-jitsu, that no matter what level you are, there's always more on the journey, more to learn, more people to learn from, and in it for life. And I like how you shared believe in your instructor and trust the process, and just have faith that it's all working. Just stay with it.
Does that make sense?
So,
there's certain stages, like when we notice, like, for example, and I did it too, like, you start to become cocky. I call it the purple belt stage, where guys are like, you start to think, because you've been around the block, you've been here for 4, 5, 6 years from school. I think it took me like 5, 6 years, and you start to think like, man, even if I didn't know, I say, yeah, I know that.
yeah.
Just to be cool, you can learn from just because you're a black belt doesn't mean that you can't learn a move from a brown belt. There might be some brown belts that I've seen that pull off submissions better than some black belts. There's purple belts that, because they've been doing a submission so long, that knowledge, that submission, they might be at a black belt better than a lot of black belts.
Right.
Does that make
right.
sense? Because if they've been playing it for a long time, and that's all
Absolutely.
they're doing. So don't be, be ready to learn. Don't always, always willing to learn. I believe if you're not learning, if you're not trying to learn every day, you're dying. And that's anything. Try to learn, whatever it is.
I couldn't agree more. And that's why I'm so excited to be on this journey and to continue it and to keep learning. I'm a lifelong learner. So, all right, my friend. Well, I really appreciate your time and your insight and your knowledge. And go ahead and tell everybody out there your website or or the school's website. So if they're in the area, they can look you guys up.
Our website is graciechicago.com. We have 3 schools here in the city of Chicago, and we have also our art team locations in the suburbs. If you come in, you're willing, we have one also in Croatia. You can hit us up and come and train. Visit us. The doors are open. My name is Idriz Redzovic, and thanks for having me.
Well, thank you, man. You've been a great guest. I appreciate it, and much respect, and long life, brother.
Take care. Peace.
All right. Peace.
Okay, this brings us to our Make a Difference, Make an Impact segment. Today's subject, don't take it personal, because it's not about you. So often we tend to take things in our lives very personally, things people say or do, when the great majority of the time it's really not about us. It's about where they are and what's going on with them in their life and in that moment for them. But it's very easy for us to fall into this trap of taking it personally. Anyway, a couple of examples of this are, let's say you send an email to someone you know, and a little time goes by, but you don't hear back from them that day, maybe even the next day or even another day. And now if you're like me, it's easy to fall into, and I've certainly done this many times in my life, questioning what's going on. The conversation in your head may go something like, well, why aren't they getting back to me? Did I do something wrong? Did I offend them in some way? What's their problem? Just what's going on? And it really has nothing to do with you. They aren't dissing you most of the time, unless there's something that obviously has gone on between the two of you. Most of the time, they're just caught up in their own life. We're all busy. We all have things going on. And they'll get back to you, when they can. And it doesn't mean they don't value you or care about you. It just means they're involved in their own life. So taking it personally really does nothing for you except to make you feel bad. Another example might be, let's say you're riding down the road, you're in traffic, and you're driving, and someone cuts you off. You're driving really fast and kind of erratically and just cuts you off and just cruises on forward. Immediately, for most of us, gets our hair on the back of our neck standing and gets our blood boiling, and we're like, what is this guy's problem? How could he do that to me? But you never know what's going on with that person in their situation. Perhaps that there's an emergency and they're trying to get someone to the hospital. I know that may sound silly, but that could be the reality, or any number of other explanations. The point is, if you don't know, and you're going to make up a story to tell yourself in your own head, why not make up a story that works for you and makes you feel good, instead of one that is totally based on fabrication in your own mind but makes you feel terrible. It's all in your power to what you're going to tell yourself. Consider this. If someone gives you a gift and you do not accept the gift, does that gift belong to you, or does it still belong to the person who's trying to give it? Just something to ponder. It's in our control to what to tell ourselves about a situation. So it's always good to remember, don't take it personal. It's not about us. And that's going to do it for this edition of the show. As always, thanks for listening, and hope you're enjoying it. Please let me know what you think about the show, and you can do a couple of things to do that. You can go to the website at www.graciejujitsurocks.com, leave a comment. You can also go to iTunes and rate the show, and you can leave a comment there as well. Again, thanks for listening, and look forward to speaking with you during the next episode. And as always, I'll see you on the mat.